Your greatest value in life will never be measured by the amount of money you possess. It will be measured by the standards you refuse to compromise. Many people misunderstand what it means to be cheap. They believe it refers only to spending as little money as possible. In reality, a cheap mindset extends far beyond finances. It appears whenever a person consistently chooses short-term comfort over long-term growth, immediate approval over lasting respect, or convenience over character. One of the most costly mistakes a person can make is selling their self-worth for temporary acceptance. Many people spend years trying to become everything others expect them to be. They hide their true opinions to avoid criticism, lower their standards to fit into certain groups, tolerate disrespect to preserve relationships, and abandon personal goals simply because they fear rejection. At first, these compromises may appear small, almost insignificant, but over time, they slowly reshape your identity. Every moment you ignore your own values to gain someone else's approval, you send yourself a quiet message that your authenticity is less important than being accepted. Eventually, this habit weakens your confidence because your life is no longer guided by your own principles, but by the constantly changing expectations of others. Human nature naturally desires belonging. Wanting meaningful relationships and genuine appreciation is completely normal. The problem begins when acceptance becomes more valuable than integrity. The moment you believe you must earn respect by becoming someone you are not, you have already underestimated your own value. True respect cannot be built upon a false version of yourself. Even if people admire the image you created, they are not truly appreciating the person you really are. This creates an exhausting cycle because you constantly feel pressure to maintain an identity that does not reflect your genuine character. Real confidence begins when you stop performing for approval and start living according to your values. People who genuinely value themselves understand that not everyone will agree with them, appreciate them, or choose to remain in their lives. They accept this reality without bitterness because they know that universal approval has never been possible. Trying to satisfy everyone often results in satisfying no one, including yourself. Instead of chasing acceptance, they focus on becoming individuals whose character earns respect naturally. They invest their energy in developing discipline, knowledge, emotional maturity, and integrity rather than constantly adjusting themselves to match public opinion. Another common way people undervalue themselves is by giving unlimited access to their time and attention. They answer every request immediately, sacrifice their own priorities to solve everyone else's problems, and feel guilty whenever they place their own needs first. While generosity is admirable, generosity without boundaries often leads to exploitation. Your time is one of the few resources that can never be replaced. Every hour spent trying to earn approval through endless availability is an hour that could have been invested in your own growth, your health, your family, or your purpose. Valuing yourself means recognizing that your attention has worth and should be offered intentionally rather than automatically. Self-worth also influences the relationships you choose to maintain. When you truly value yourself, you stop accepting treatment that repeatedly damages your confidence. You no longer remain where your kindness is mistaken for weakness or where your loyalty is rewarded with disrespect. This does not mean expecting perfection from others. Every relationship experiences misunderstandings and mistakes. The difference lies in repeated patterns. Healthy relationships are built upon mutual respect, honesty, and accountability. If these qualities consistently disappear, protecting your dignity becomes more important than preserving unhealthy familiarity. Many people fear that raising their standards will leave them alone. In reality, higher standards often remove relationships that were sustained only by your willingness to tolerate unhealthy behavior. They also create space for healthier connections built upon genuine respect instead of convenience. As your self-worth grows, your confidence becomes quieter and more stable. You stop needing constant reassurance because your value is no longer determined by compliments or approval. Your decisions become clearer because they reflect your principles instead of your fears. Others begin treating you differently because they recognize that you respect yourself enough to protect your time, your peace, and your dignity. In the end, the world often follows the example you set for your own life, making the decision to value yourself the first and most important investment you will ever make. Every decision you make carries a price, even when that price is not immediately visible. Many people judge choices only by what they cost today, forgetting that the true cost of a decision is often revealed months or even years later. Human nature is drawn toward convenience because immediate comfort feels rewarding. Saving a little time, spending a little less money, avoiding difficult work, or escaping uncomfortable conversations can seem like smart choices in the moment. Yet the cheapest decision today often creates the most expensive consequence tomorrow. This principle applies to nearly every area of life. Consider the person who refuses to invest in learning because books, courses, or training seem too expensive. At first, they save money, but over time, they lose opportunities that could have multiplied their income and expanded their future. The temporary savings become insignificant compared to the value they never gained. The same pattern appears in health. Ignoring exercise, proper nutrition, or regular rest may appear harmless because the consequences do not arrive immediately. However, the body quietly keeps track of every neglected habit. Years later, poor health demands a far greater price than the discipline that could have prevented it. Short-term convenience often becomes long-term hardship. Relationships follow the same principle. Many people avoid honest conversations because conflict feels uncomfortable. They remain silent when boundaries are crossed, hoping problems will disappear on their own. They choose temporary peace instead of lasting honesty. Unfortunately, unresolved issues rarely become smaller with time. Small misunderstandings gradually become deep resentment, and relationships weaken under the weight of conversations that were never held. A difficult discussion today is often far less costly than years of emotional distance tomorrow. Character is shaped by the same law. Every time you choose the easier path instead of the right one, you may gain a temporary advantage, but you also weaken your integrity. One dishonest action may appear insignificant, yet repeated compromises gradually reshape your identity. Eventually, people stop trusting your words because your actions consistently reveal something different. Rebuilding a damaged reputation requires far more effort than protecting it in the first place. This is why integrity should never be sacrificed for temporary gain. It is one of the few investments whose value increases with time. Discipline also requires accepting small discomforts to avoid much larger consequences. Waking early, practicing consistently, studying when others seek an entertainment, and remaining committed when motivation fades all demand effort today. Many people avoid these habits because they seem difficult, yet these same habits quietly create confidence, competence, and opportunity. Every discipline choice becomes an investment whose rewards continue growing long after the effort has been made. The individual who repeatedly chooses temporary comfort eventually pays through regret, while the individual who embraces temporary discomfort often enjoys lasting freedom. Financial decisions reveal this truth clearly. Buying unnecessary things to satisfy immediate desires may create brief excitement, but uncontrolled spending gradually limits future choices. Wise individuals understand that money should serve long-term purpose rather than short-term emotion. They spend intentionally, save consistently, and invest patiently because they understand that every financial decision shapes future possibilities. The same wisdom applies to time. Every hour wasted on meaningless distractions is an hour unavailable for learning, building, creating, or strengthening meaningful relationships. Time invested wisely compounds just as powerfully as money invested wisely. The strongest people develop the habit of asking a different question before making important decisions. Instead of asking only what something costs today, they ask what it will cost if they avoid it. Instead of choosing the easiest option, they choose the one most likely to strengthen their future. This perspective transforms ordinary choices into strategic investments. Over time, these decisions build a life marked by stability, confidence, and opportunity because lasting success is rarely created through dramatic moments. It is built through hundreds of wise decisions where temporary comfort is willingly exchanged for long-term growth, proving that the true price of any choice is measured not by what it demands today, but by the future it quietly creates. The greatest investment you will ever make is not in a possession that can be lost, a title that can be taken away, or a trend that will eventually fade. It is the investment you make in your own mind, your skills, and your character. These are the only assets that continue increasing in value regardless of changing circumstances. Many people spend years searching for opportunities while neglecting the qualities that would allow them to recognize and seize those opportunities when they appear. They hope success will arrive through luck, connections, or perfect timing, yet lasting success is far more often the result of preparation. Every hour spent developing yourself quietly expands the possibilities available to your future. Human nature is often attracted to visible rewards. People admire expensive possessions because they can be seen immediately, but they rarely notice the invisible investments that made those achievements possible. Knowledge cannot always be displayed, yet it shapes every decision you make. Skills cannot always be measured by appearance, yet they determine your ability to solve problems and create value. Character cannot be purchased, yet it becomes the foundation upon which trust, influence, and meaningful relationships are built. The strongest individuals understand that what cannot be seen often becomes far more valuable than what can. Begin with your mind because every action begins with a thought. The quality of your thinking determines the quality of your choices. Read books that challenge your assumptions rather than simply confirming your opinions. Study history because it reveals timeless patterns of human behavior, leadership, failure, and success. Learn psychology so you better understand both yourself and the people around you. Develop the habit of asking thoughtful questions instead of rushing toward convenient answers. Every piece of knowledge you acquire strengthens your ability to think independently instead of merely following the opinions of others. A disciplined mind becomes one of the greatest forms of freedom because it cannot be easily manipulated by fear, trends, or emotional pressure. Alongside knowledge, develop practical skills that increase your independence. Communication, leadership, writing, negotiation, problem solving, and emotional intelligence remain valuable regardless of changes in technology or circumstance. Every new skill creates opportunities that did not exist before. Instead of waiting for others to recognize your potential, you become capable of creating value wherever you go. Competence produces confidence because it replaces uncertainty with preparation. The more capable you become, the less you depend upon luck or external validation. You begin trusting your ability to adapt because you have repeatedly strengthened it through deliberate practice. Character is the investment that holds everything else together. Intelligence without integrity eventually loses trust. Skill without honesty creates temporary success but lasting doubt. Your character is revealed not during moments of comfort, but during moments of pressure. When difficult choices expose what you truly value, every promise you keep strengthens your reputation. Every act of discipline reinforces your identity. Every decision guided by principle instead of convenience quietly shapes the person you become. Character compounds in the same way habits do. Small acts of honesty, responsibility, patience, and consistency eventually create a reputation that opens doors money alone cannot unlock. Investing in yourself also requires patience because meaningful growth rarely produces immediate results. There will be seasons when your efforts seem invisible. You may spend months learning, practicing, and improving without receiving recognition. Do not mistake silence for lack of progress. The roots of every strong tree grow long before its branches become visible. In the same way, your unseen discipline prepares you for opportunities that others are not ready to handle. Over time, your knowledge sharpens your judgment, your skills expand your opportunities, and your character earns lasting trust. These investments work together to create a life built upon substance instead of appearance. Long after possessions lose their value and temporary success fades, the person you have become remains your greatest asset, proving that investing in your mind, your abilities, and your character is the one decision whose rewards continue growing for the rest of your life. Your reputation is one of the few possessions that grows more valuable with time, yet it is also one of the easiest things to damage through a single careless decision. Money can be earned again, opportunities may return, and material possessions can be replaced, but a reputation built over years can be weakened in moments if it is not protected with wisdom and discipline. Many people spend enormous energy trying to increase their wealth while paying very little attention to the character that determines whether that wealth will create lasting respect. Human nature remembers patterns far longer than promises. People eventually forget impressive speeches, but they remember whether your actions consistently reflected honesty, reliability, and integrity. Your reputation is built through countless small choices that most people never notice individually but always recognize collectively. Every promise you keep adds another layer of trust. Every responsibility you fulfill strengthens your credibility. Every moment you choose honesty over convenience quietly shapes the way people perceive you. At first, these decisions may appear insignificant because the rewards are not immediate, yet over time they accumulate into something far more valuable than temporary recognition. People begin associating your name with dependability, consistency, and character. This trust becomes an invisible asset that opens doors long before you ask for opportunities. Employers trust reliable people with greater responsibility. Friends rely on those whose words consistently match their actions. Communities naturally respect individuals who demonstrate integrity without seeking attention. Reputation becomes your silent introduction long before you enter the room. One of the greatest threats to reputation is the temptation to pursue short-term advantage at the expense of long-term character. A dishonest shortcut may provide immediate gain, but it often creates lasting consequences. Breaking trust for temporary benefit weakens something far more valuable than whatever was gained in the moment. Once people begin questioning your integrity, every future promise carries less weight because trust has already been damaged. Rebuilding credibility requires patience, humility, and consistent effort, proving that protecting your reputation from the beginning is always wiser than trying to repair it later. Reputation is also shaped by how you treat people when there is nothing to gain. It is easy to show kindness when rewards are expected. True character appears when respect is offered without expectation, when promises are honored despite inconvenience, and when honesty is chosen even though no one seems to be watching. These moments define who you are far more than public achievements. Quiet integrity has a way of becoming visible over time because consistent behavior cannot remain hidden forever. Another important aspect of reputation is resisting the desire to please everyone. Many people weaken their credibility by constantly changing their opinions, values, or decisions to match the expectations of different audiences. They hope universal approval will strengthen their image, but the opposite often happens. Consistency creates trust because people know what you stand for. Principles that remain steady through changing circumstances inspire confidence. This does not mean refusing to learn or admit mistakes. In fact, acknowledging errors with honesty often strengthens reputation because it demonstrates maturity and accountability rather than pride. Protect your reputation through the quality of your daily habits. Arrive when you say you will. Complete the work you accept. Speak truthfully even when honesty feels uncomfortable. Avoid gossip because destroying another person's reputation rarely strengthens your own. Remain calm during conflict instead of allowing emotion to control your words. Small disciplines practiced consistently become the foundation of lasting credibility. As years pass, your reputation begins working on your behalf. Opportunities appear because people trust your judgment. Relationships deepen because others feel secure in your reliability. Challenges become easier to navigate because your character provides stability even during uncertainty. In a world where appearances often receive more attention than substance, the person who carefully protects their reputation through integrity, discipline, and unwavering consistency possesses a form of wealth that no market can measure, no thief can easily steal, and no amount of money can truly replace. Many people confuse being financially wise with living from a mindset of scarcity, yet the two are completely different. Wisdom teaches you to use resources intentionally so they create greater value over time. Scarcity teaches you to hold on to everything out of fear, even when letting go would produce growth. On the surface, these behaviors can appear similar because both may involve saving money or avoiding unnecessary spending. The difference lies in the motivation behind the decision. Wisdom is guided by purpose, scarcity is guided by fear. A wise person asks whether an expense creates long-term value. A scarcity mindset asks only how to avoid spending in the present. This difference shapes not only financial choices, but also opportunities, relationships, and personal development. Human nature often seeks certainty because uncertainty feels uncomfortable. When people experience fear of losing what they already have, they may refuse to invest in themselves, even when the potential return is far greater than the cost. They hesitate to buy books that could expand their thinking, enroll in courses that could strengthen valuable skills, or spend time learning new abilities because they focus entirely on the immediate expense. In doing so, they unknowingly pay a much greater price through missed opportunities. The money remains in their pocket for a while, but the growth that could have transformed their future never takes place. True wisdom recognizes that certain investments increase in value because they improve the person making them. The scarcity mindset also appears in the way people approach relationships. Some individuals become afraid to share knowledge, encouragement, or appreciation because they believe giving somehow reduces what they possess. They worry that helping others succeed will leave fewer opportunities for themselves. In reality, generosity rooted in wisdom often strengthens relationships, builds trust, and creates opportunities that selfishness never could. This does not mean giving without boundaries or allowing yourself to be taken advantage of. It means understanding that value often grows when it is shared with discernment rather than protected through constant fear. Another difference between wisdom and scarcity can be seen in the way people respond to challenges. Someone with a scarcity mindset often avoids calculated risks because failure appears too costly. They remain in unfulfilling situations simply because they fear uncertainty. They reject opportunities before even exploring them because protecting the familiar feels safer than pursuing growth. A wise individual still respects risk, but they evaluate it thoughtfully instead of allowing fear to make every decision. They prepare carefully, gather knowledge, and then move forward when the opportunity aligns with their principles and long-term goals. This balanced approach creates progress while avoiding reckless behavior. Scarcity also influences the way people value time. They may spend countless hours chasing small savings while ignoring opportunities that could significantly improve their future. Time is often more valuable than money because it cannot be replaced. A wise person understands this and invests time where it creates lasting results. They choose activities that develop knowledge, strengthen health, improve relationships, and build meaningful skills rather than becoming consumed by habits that produce little lasting benefit. The same principle applies to emotional energy. Constant worry about losing what you have leaves little room to appreciate what you already possess or pursue what you could become. Gratitude and wisdom work together because they encourage thoughtful decisions rather than fearful reactions. Developing an abundant mindset does not require wastefulness or endless spending. It requires confidence that thoughtful investments in your growth will produce greater value than clinging to every resource out of fear. It means recognizing that true wealth is measured not only by money, but also by knowledge, health, discipline, relationships, and character. As this perspective becomes part of your daily life, your decisions begin reflecting long-term vision instead of short-term anxiety. You spend with intention, save with purpose, invest with patience, and remain open to opportunities that align with your values. In doing so, you escape the limitations of scarcity and begin building a life where wisdom, rather than fear, becomes the force guiding every important decision you make. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of your standards. Every decision you make, every relationship you maintain, every habit you repeat, and every goal you pursue is shaped by what you are willing to accept and what you refuse to tolerate. Many people dream of extraordinary results while continuing to live by ordinary standards. They expect discipline without consistency, respect without self-respect, and success without sacrifice. They hope life will improve through chance rather than through deliberate choices. Yet lasting change always begins with raising the standards you hold yourself to every single day. Standards are different from goals. A goal is something you hope to achieve in the future. A standard is the minimum level of behavior you refuse to fall below in the present. Goals inspire direction, but standards determine daily action. Someone may set a goal of becoming healthy, but if their standard allows constant neglect of exercise, poor nutrition, and insufficient rest, the goal remains only an idea. Another person may dream of financial independence, yet if their standard permits impulsive spending and inconsistent effort, that future becomes increasingly difficult to reach. Your standards quietly shape your destiny because they influence the countless small decisions that eventually create your life. Human nature naturally seeks comfort, and comfort often encourages lower standards. It becomes easy to postpone difficult work until tomorrow, excuse poor habits because they seem harmless, or tolerate situations that repeatedly drain your energy simply because changing them requires effort. Every compromise appears insignificant in isolation, yet repeated compromises slowly reshape your identity. You become what you repeatedly accept. This is why raising your standards requires discipline rather than temporary motivation. Motivation changes with emotion. Standards remain steady because they are built upon principles instead of feelings. Quality should become the foundation of every area of your life. Demand quality from your thinking by refusing to feed your mind with constant negativity or unnecessary distraction. Demand quality from your work by giving your best effort even when no one is watching. Demand quality from your relationships by surrounding yourself with people who encourage honesty, growth, and mutual respect instead of manipulation or constant conflict. Demand quality from your habits because your habits eventually become your character. Excellence is rarely the result of one extraordinary effort. It is created through ordinary actions performed with extraordinary consistency. Raising your standards also means becoming more selective about where your time and attention are invested. Time is your most valuable resource because once it is passed, it can never be recovered. Every unnecessary argument, meaningless distraction, or unhealthy relationship quietly steals hours that could have been invested in learning, creating, strengthening your health, or deepening meaningful relationships. High standards teach you that saying no to what weakens you is often necessary to say yes to what strengthens you. Another important aspect of living with quality is accepting responsibility for your own choices. It is easy to blame circumstances, other people, or past experiences for present difficulties. Responsibility requires greater courage because it asks you to recognize the areas where your own decisions can improve. This perspective is empowering because it reminds you that while you cannot control everything that happens, you can control how you respond, what habits you develop, and what standards you choose to uphold. Every disciplined response strengthens your future, regardless of current circumstances. As these standards become part of your identity, your confidence begins changing. You no longer seek shortcuts because you understand that genuine success is built patiently. You stop lowering your values simply to gain approval because your self-respect has become more valuable than temporary acceptance. People begin recognizing consistency in your words and actions because your behavior reflects clear principles rather than changing emotions. Opportunities increase because others trust your reliability. Relationships improve because mutual respect becomes the foundation rather than convenience. Over time, your standards quietly shape not only your achievements, but also your reputation, your peace of mind, and your influence, proving that the future you experience is ultimately determined by the standards you choose to live by every single day, rather than the dreams you merely hope will one day come true.